r/entitled parents mom fires me from family business, caught stealing funds. Hashtag chunk 1. The manila folder hits my chest before I even process what's happening. You're done, mom says, her voice cutting through the kitchen like a knife. Security will escort you out in 5 minutes. I stare at her, the folder falling to the stainless steel counter. We're in the back office of Delacroix Catering, the same office where I watched my grandfather run this business for 30 years before he passed it to my parents. The same office where I spent my teenage summers filing invoices and learning that success meant showing up, working hard, and treating people right. Apparently those lessons don't apply to family. Mom, what are you talking about? My voice sounds small, which makes me furious. I'm 22. I'm a college graduate. I have a degree in business management. I shouldn't sound small. We can talk about this. I didn't mean to. You questioned me in front of the entire management team, she interrupts, her face flushed with anger. You humiliated me. In my own company. This is about the meeting this morning. The one where I, carefully, respectfully, suggested we finally upgrade our booking system from the decade-old software that crashes twice a week. The one where I presented a proposal I'd spent 3 weeks researching. The one where Mom decided that my attempt to modernize was a personal attack on her leadership. I was trying to help, I say. That software is costing us clients. Just last week, we lost the Martinez wedding because. I don't care. She holds up her hand. I've been running this business for 20 years. I built it into what it is. And you, fresh out of college with your fancy degree, waltz in here thinking you know better than I do. I want to remind her that her father, my grandfather, built this business. That Mom inherited it. That I'm not trying to replace her, I'm trying to keep us competitive. But I know that tone. That's the tone that means this conversation is already over. Can we at least talk to Dad about this? I ask, grasping for something, anything. My father is reasonable. He's quiet, usually lets my mother take the lead, but he's fair. He listens. Your father is in a walk-in cooler with the prep team. I'll handle this myself. She turns away, opening a drawer in her desk. You can collect your personal items. Security is waiting at the front entrance. 5 minutes. That's what she gave me. My hands are shaking as I walk through the swinging doors from the office into the kitchen. The smell hits me immediately, roasted garlic, fresh herbs, the specific warmth of industrial ovens that have been part of my life since I was tall enough to peek over a cutting board. These smells mean home. They mean family. They mean belonging. Or at least they did. The kitchen staff goes quiet. I recognize most of them. Mrs. Chen has been our head chef for 12 years. Marcus trained under my grandfather and taught me how to make our signature béarnaise sauce when I was 12. Yolanda started as an intern 5 years ago and is now our pastry specialist. These people watched me grow up. They came to my high school graduation. Some of them brought wedding gifts to my parents' anniversary party last year. Now they're watching me get escorted out like I'm a thief. My face is burning as I grab my jacket from the hook by the back door. I can feel their eyes on me, the questions they're too professional to ask. I want to tell them this is a misunderstanding. That I'll be back. That everything's fine. But I can't lie to them, and I don't have the energy to explain. The security guard, a guy named David who's worked here for 3 years, won't meet my eyes as he walks me to the front entrance. We don't talk. What would we even say? He's just doing his job. We both know I didn't do anything wrong, at least not in any meaningful way. Questioning your mother's business decisions might be disrespectful in her opinion, but it's not a firing offense. It's not a crime. The last thing I see as I walk out into the parking lot is my father emerging from the cooler, confusion crossing his face as he spots me leaving with security. For a moment, our eyes meet. He looks bewildered, then hurt, then angry, but I can't tell if the anger is directed at me or at my mother. Then the glass door closes behind me. I sit in my car for 20 minutes, just gripping the steering wheel, trying to process what just happened. 1 hour ago, I was in a staff meeting planning next week's schedule. 2 hours ago, I was excited about starting this job, about proving myself, about eventually taking over some of the company's operations and modernizing things without completely dismantling what my grandfather built. 3 hours ago, I still had a job. Now I'm sitting in the parking lot of the family business, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror, my college degree worthless and my family broken. I'm about to turn the key in the ignition when my phone buzzes. A text from my father, *, call me. Outside, *. I take a shaky breath and dial. He answers on the first ring, and I can hear him moving, probably walking away from the kitchen noise. What happened? He asks quietly. Your mother just told everyone you were being let go for incompetence. That's not what she said in the office, is it? The real reason? I laugh, actually laugh, because the question itself tells me everything I need to know about my parents' relationship. He already knows she lied. He's asking me for the truth. No, I say. The real reason is that I suggested we update our booking system. And she didn't like being questioned. There's a long silence on the other end of the line. Stay there, he finally says. I'm coming out. As I wait for him to come outside, something shifts in my chest. It's not relief, exactly. It's not forgiveness for what just happened. But it's the first time today I've felt like maybe, just maybe, someone in my family is actually on my side. I have no idea that everything is about to get so much worse. Hashtag chunk 2. Dad emerges from the building 10 minutes later, his chef's white still on, his face a complicated mixture of anger and concern. He doesn't say anything as he approaches my car, just opens the passenger door and slides in, closing it quietly behind him. The silence stretches between us. I've never been good with silence. I start talking to fill it. I wasn't trying to undermine her, I say quickly. The booking system proposal was professional. I had numbers, projections, everything. I showed how much revenue we're losing because clients can't reach us when the software crashes. I wasn't trying to make her look bad. I was trying to help. Dad nods slowly, staring out the windshield at the restaurant. I know, kiddo. I know you weren't. Then why did she? I stopped myself. I already know why. We both do. My mother has always needed to be right. Always. It's not a character flaw she's working on, it's the foundation of who she is. Question her, and you're questioning her competence. Suggest an improvement, and you're suggesting she's failed. There's no room for debate with her, no space for collaborative problem solving. I'm going to talk to her, Dad says. This is ridiculous. You're not fired. You made a reasonable business suggestion. That's literally what we need you to do. I want to believe him. I want to believe this is fixable, that Dad will go back in there and smooth everything over, that by tomorrow this will be some family story we laugh about. But I've seen my parents' dynamic my entire life. My mother decides, and my father manages the fallout. Dad. Just give me an hour, he says, and there's something in his voice that makes me stop arguing. Go home. Take a walk. Decompress. I'll call you after I talk to her. He gets out of the car without waiting for a response, and I watch him walk back into the building, already mentally preparing himself for the fight ahead. I recognize the set of his shoulders, the determined pace. He's going to war with my mother, and he's doing it because of me. That should feel good. It doesn't. It feels like I've lit a match and handed it to him without warning. I drive around aimlessly for an hour, not really going anywhere, just putting distance between myself and the restaurant. Eventually, I end up at the lakefront park near my apartment, a small studio I rented 3 months ago to be close to work. Another poor decision in a day full of them. The rent is expensive, and I was supposed to be building savings. Now I'm unemployed. My phone buzzes at 2:47 p.m. A text from Dad, asterisk coming to your place. We need to talk about something, asterisk. The wording makes my stomach drop. We need to talk about something is never good. That's code for bad news, serious information, things that can't be discussed over text or phone. By the time he arrives at my apartment 30 minutes later, I've imagined approximately 17 different worst-case scenarios. Mom is divorcing him. Mom is having a breakdown. Mom did something even more severe to sabotage me. By the time I open the door, my anxiety is in overdrive. But it's worse than any of those scenarios. Much worse. Dad sits on my secondhand couch and doesn't say anything for a long moment. He just looks exhausted. Older than he did this morning. He's still wearing his chef's whites, and there's a faint dusting of flour on his sleeve. Your mother didn't fire you because of the booking system, he finally says. I know, I say. She fired me because I questioned her. No. He runs his hand over his face. She fired you because you were getting too close to the books. I stare at him. What are you talking about? I went back to the office after I left you. I was going to talk to her, try to reason with her. But when I got there, she was at the desk, moving files around, looking panicked. He pauses, and I can see him choosing his words carefully. I asked her what was wrong. She snapped at me, told me to leave. So I did. But then I started thinking about some things. Some inconsistencies I've noticed over the past couple years. Dad, what inconsistencies? He stands up and walks to my small kitchen window, looking out at nothing. Your mother has always handled the financial reporting. I do the operations, she does the books. That was the arrangement when your grandfather was alive, and I never had reason to change it. But I started pulling up statements on my phone. From my personal email account. I have access, I'm on everything legally, but I've never really looked closely. The way he's talking, the way he's avoiding eye contact, the heaviness in his voice, I already know this is bad. And I prompt. There are transfers, he says quietly. Regular transfers moving money out of the business account into a separate account I don't recognize. They're disguised as vendor payments and expense reimbursements, but when I checked, the vendors don't exist. The expenses were never authorized. My mouth goes dry. How much? I don't know yet. I'm still looking through the statements. But from what I can see just from the last year, at least $40,000. Possibly more. The transfers go back further than that. I sink onto my couch. You think Mom is stealing from the business? Dad turns to face me, and his eyes are red. I don't think. I know. And I think maybe your mother knows that you know something is wrong. You were doing the initial inventory reconciliation when you started, remember? You mentioned some discrepancies in the supply costs that didn't add up. Oh God. I did mention that. Last week. I brought it up casually at dinner, saying the numbers seemed off, that I wanted to do a deeper dive into where the overspending was coming from. I planned to approach it with my mother after I gathered more evidence. She fired me to stop me from investigating, I say slowly. I think so, yes. How much are we talking about? I ask. Total, if it goes back years. Dad sits back down. He looks absolutely shattered. I don't know yet. But your grandfather built this business from nothing. Your mother promised to protect it. And instead. He doesn't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number, asterisk hi, this is Marcus from the restaurant. I heard what happened today. That's bullshit. Your mom has been acting weird lately. Buying lottery tickets constantly, disappearing for hours. Just thought you should know. Hope you're okay, asterisk. I show the text to my father. His jaw clenches. There's more, he says quietly. There's always more with these things. And if what I'm thinking is true, this isn't just about embezzlement. This is about a much bigger problem. One that your mother has been hiding from all of us. What kind of problem? I ask, but I'm afraid I already know the answer. The kind that destroys everything, he says. Hashtag chunk 3. The words hang in the air between us like a verdict. The kind that destroys everything, I want to ask him to be more specific, but I'm afraid. Not of the answer itself, but of what comes after I hear it. Once I know the full truth, I can't unknow it. Once I understand the scope of what my mother has done, there's no going back to the comfortable ignorance I had this morning. Gambling, Dad says, reading the question on my face. I think your mother has a gambling problem. A serious one. The lottery tickets Marcus mentioned. The disappearances. The panic in her office when Dad arrived. It all clicks into place with a sickening clarity. But knowing the what doesn't make the why any less devastating. How long? I ask. I don't know. I need to go through more records. But the transfers, they started roughly 3 years ago. Small at first. A few hundred here and there. Then they escalated. He rubs his temples. I've been so busy with the restaurant operations that I never questioned the financial summary she gave me. I trusted her. I trusted that she had things under control. You trusted her because she's your wife, I say, and it comes out harsher than I intend. That's not a failure, Dad. That's just being married to someone. But even as I say it, I'm thinking about all the times I've seen my mother's behavior escalate over the past few years. The increased irritability. The way she'd disappear for entire afternoons without explanation. The time she snapped at me for asking too many questions about a vendor invoice. The constant stress in her voice. I attributed it all to the normal pressures of running a business, but now I'm reassessing everything through a new lens. I need to talk to her, Dad says, standing up again. He's got that restless energy now, the kind that comes from needing to act but not knowing what action to take. I need to understand the full extent of this before I decide what to do. What are you going to do? I ask. He doesn't answer. He just shakes his head slowly. I don't know yet. That depends on what she tells me. That depends on whether she's willing to acknowledge this is a problem and get help, or whether she's going to deny it and let everything collapse. And if she denies it, then we have a much bigger problem, he says. Because then I have to decide whether to involve the authorities. Whether to report the embezzlement. Whether to, he stops himself, but the implication is clear. Whether to destroy his marriage to save the business. Whether to betray the woman he's been married to for 25 years to protect his father's legacy. My phone buzzes again. Another text, this time from my friend Sarah, who I went to high school with and who works front of house at the restaurant. *OMG, I heard your mom freaked out on you. Are you okay? Also, something weird, your mom was asking a bunch of people about how much they know about the financial side of things. Asked me specifically if you'd been talking to me about sensitive business matters. Made me really uncomfortable, *. I show Dad this one too. His expression darkens. She knows, he says. She knows I'm looking at the books, or she suspects it at least. And she's trying to figure out what you might know and who you might have told. So what do we do? I ask. Because if she's covering her tracks right now, if she's trying to delete evidence or move money around. I'm going back to the restaurant, Dad says. I'm going to sit down with her and confront her directly. And then. He trails off, uncertain. And then we'll see if there's any path forward from here. After he leaves, I sit alone in my apartment, staring at my laptop. I could do nothing. I could let my father handle this privately, keep my distance, try to rebuild my own life separate from whatever catastrophe is about to unfold in my parents' marriage. That would be the easy choice. The self-protective choice. But I keep thinking about the employees. About Marcus, who texted me with genuine concern. About the dishwashers, the line cooks, the front-of-house staff who have trusted my family to employ them fairly and honestly. About my grandfather, who built something meaningful from nothing, who worked his entire life to create a legacy that could support future generations. And I think about the fact that I was fired today specifically to keep me from discovering this. My mother saw a threat and eliminated it. She prioritized covering up her addiction over keeping her own child in her life. Over being honest. I open my laptop and pull up the files I copied before security escorted me out. I have them saved on an encrypted drive, financial statements, bank records, vendor lists, transaction histories. Everything a forensic accountant would need to trace exactly where the money went and how much is missing. I'm not the kind of person who does things halfway. I'm not the kind of person who sees a problem and decides someone else will handle it. If I'm going to do this, if I'm going to be the one who exposes what's happening, then I need to be thorough. I need to be prepared. I spend the next 3 hours going through the documents methodically. I create a spreadsheet. I cross-reference vendor names with legitimate business registries. I track the pattern of transfers, their timing, their amounts. By the time I'm done, I have a clear timeline of my mother's embezzlement going back almost 4 years. The total amount missing is closer to $180,000. My hands are shaking when I finish. $180,000. That's not desperation. That's not a few small mistakes that can be fixed. That's systematic theft. That's years of carefully calculated deception. That's my mother, sitting at the dinner table with us, knowing what she'd done, watching my father trust her implicitly. My phone rings. It's Dad. His voice sounds hollow. She admitted it, he says without preamble. I confronted her with the transfers, and she just broke down. She's been gambling for almost 4 years. Started small, slots at a tribal casino an hour away, some online poker. Then it escalated. She said she was trying to win enough to replace what she'd taken, that she just needed one big win to fix everything. The classic lie that addiction tells. The belief that the next win will solve everything. The certainty that this time will be different. What happens now? I ask. I don't know, he says. She's willing to get help. She's willing to confess. But she's also begging me not to involve the authorities. She says it will destroy everything, our marriage, the business's reputation, everything. I think about that choice. The choice between protecting someone you love and protecting everything else they've put at risk. Dad, I say quietly. You need to think about what's right for the business. For the employees. For yourself. Not just what's right for her. There's a long silence on the other end of the line. I know, he finally says. I'm starting to realize that. #Chunk4. The call with Dad ends, and I'm left in the suffocating silence of my apartment with nothing but the hum of my laptop and the weight of what comes next. My mother has confessed. She's agreed to get help. On the surface, this should feel like resolution, like the moment where the truth comes out and people start fixing things. But I've spent enough time in my family to know that confession and consequence are two very different things. I text Dad back, let me know if you need anything. He doesn't respond. That's probably accurate. What could he possibly need from me right now? I'm the person who walked out with stolen files. The person who spent the last 3 hours building a case against his wife. Even if he doesn't blame me consciously, there's got to be a part of him that's wondering if I could have handled this differently. If there was a way to solve this without exposure. My phone buzzes. It's my mother. Just seeing her name on my screen makes my stomach clench. I don't open the message immediately. I stare at it like it might change if I look long enough. Asterisk, we need to talk. Please, asterisk. My first instinct is to ignore it. But I've learned enough about addiction in the last hour of frantic Googling to know that avoidance isn't going to make this better. If anything, my silence will give her time to craft a narrative. To figure out which version of events she wants me to believe. I call her instead of texting back. Hearing her voice feels more honest somehow. She answers on the first ring, like she was waiting by the phone. Thank God, she says. I wasn't sure you'd pick up. I wasn't sure I would either, I admit. There's a pause. I can hear her breathing, almost shaking. When she speaks again, her voice is smaller than I've ever heard it. Your father told you. He did. And you hate me. It's not a question, and I'm surprised by the directness of it. I expected denial. I expected justifications. I expected her to try to spin this as some kind of misunderstanding or temporary lapse in judgment. I don't know what I feel, I say honestly. I'm still processing. Dad said you admitted everything. I did, she says. I had to. Once he started asking specific questions, there was no point in lying. He has the records. He knows what I did. She takes a shaky breath. I know what I did. I've known for a long time, actually. That's the thing about lying to yourself, you get really, really good at it until suddenly you can't anymore. I lean back in my chair, closing my eyes. How much? I ask. Your father didn't tell you? No. He said he was still calculating. But I've already done it. I have the spreadsheet. I know it's $180,000. There's a sound like she's been punched. A small gasp. You have the records. I copied them before I left the office today. Before you fired me. The implications of that statement hang in the air between us. I didn't just get fired by accident. My mother actively removed me from the situation to protect herself. And now I'm sitting on evidence that proves everything. Oh God, she says. Oh God, why would you do that? Why would I do that? I repeat, and I can hear the anger creeping into my voice now. Mom, you fired me. In front of everyone. You humiliated me in front of Marcus and the entire staff because I asked about updating the booking system. You didn't fire me because I was doing a bad job. You fired me because you were afraid of what I might discover. That's not, she starts, but I cut her off. It is. It absolutely is. And I know that now. I know because Dad showed me the pattern. I know because I've spent the last 3 hours tracing every transaction. I know you've been stealing from the business for almost 4 years. I know you started with small amounts and escalated. I know you have a gambling addiction, and I know you've been using company money to fund it. Saying it all out loud makes it real in a way that spreadsheets and data analysis couldn't quite accomplish. This isn't abstract anymore. This is my mother. This is my family. I need help, she says quietly. Your father helped me find a treatment program. I'm supposed to start next week. I'm supposed to, her voice cracks. I'm supposed to turn myself in. To the authorities. That's part of the accountability process. Your father says if I don't, he'll do it for me. I wasn't expecting that. I assumed this would be a negotiation. I assumed my father would be pressuring her to keep it quiet, to handle it privately, to protect the family name. But apparently, he's drawn a line. Is he going to? I ask. Turn you in. He says he'll give me 30 days to get into treatment and start the confession process myself. After that, he's calling a lawyer. 30 days. That's such a specific time frame. That's my father being merciful and firm simultaneously. That's a man trying to balance love for his wife with responsibility to everyone else she's hurt. How are you paying for treatment? I ask, and I can hear how cold my voice sounds. Because the funds you stole aren't available anymore. I'm liquidating some investments. Retirement accounts. Things I should have thought about before I started gambling, obviously. She laughs, but there's no humor in it. I'm also getting a second job. Your father thinks I need to contribute to making restitution. Actual work, actual income, actual accountability. Not just sitting in treatment while everyone else figures out the mess I made. I don't know whether to feel sympathetic or angry. Maybe I'm supposed to feel both. I won't come home, I tell her. I can't. Not right now. I'm not ready to see you. I know, she says. I understand. I needed you to know that I know what I did. I'm not going to try to minimize it or pretend it wasn't serious. It was serious. It is serious. And I'm going to own that. We end the call shortly after that. There's not much else to say. She's admitted guilt. She's committed to treatment. She's going to confess to the authorities. On paper, this is resolution. But my laptop is still open. My spreadsheet is still there. My father still has to decide whether to publicly acknowledge what happened or try to minimize the scandal. The employees still need to be told something about the financial instability they didn't know existed. And I'm still the person who collected all the evidence. Still the person who could ensure the worst possible outcome for my mother. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to turn it over to authorities myself. I haven't decided whether 30 days is enough time, or whether my mother's commitment to treatment is genuine. But I'm starting to understand that whether I decide to do nothing, or whether I decide to be thorough, there's no version of this where everything goes back to normal. Hashtag chunk 5. The next morning, I wake up to 17 missed calls and 32 text messages. It takes me a moment to understand what's happened. The business didn't collapse overnight. No scandal broke on the local news. The authorities haven't shown up at the house. What did happen is somehow worse. Someone talked. The first message is from Marcus, our operations manager and the person who's worked with my grandfather longer than anyone except my parents. Asterisk need to talk. Not over text. Call me, asterisk. Then there's a series of increasingly frantic messages from my father. Where are you? Asterisk your mother called me at work. She told the accountant, asterisk. Asterisk not all the details. But enough. He's asking questions, asterisk. We need to talk before this gets out of hand. Then my mother. Asterisk I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I panicked. I thought it would be better if someone besides us knew. I thought it would make it more real. I thought, asterisk. Asterisk I wasn't thinking clearly. Please don't hate me more, asterisk. And then, most unsettling of all, a text from an unknown number that I eventually pieced together is from my Aunt Rachel, my mother's sister, who works part-time in the business doing event coordination. Asterisk I heard some things. I don't know what to believe. Call me, asterisk. I sit up in bed, my heart pounding. This is spiraling faster than I anticipated. My mother confessing to my father was supposed to be controlled. It was supposed to be contained. But she's panicked, and panic spreads through families like cracks through glass. I call Marcus first. He answers before the first ring finishes. Hey, he says, his voice tight with something I can't quite identify. Anger. Concern. Thanks for picking up. What happened? I ask. Your mother came into the office this morning. She looked like she hadn't slept. She asked me and 3 other senior staff to come into the back office. She told us there's been a financial discrepancy. That's the word she used, discrepancy. Like we're talking about a misplaced invoice, not $180,000. I close my eyes. She didn't tell them it was her. No. She said the issue had been identified and that it's being addressed privately. She said the business is stable, our paychecks are secure, and we shouldn't worry. But here's the thing, I've been doing this for 32 years. I know when something doesn't add up. And the way she said it, the way her hands were shaking, the way your dad looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Something is very wrong. Marcus, I start, but he cuts me off. Are you okay? That's what I'm asking. You walked out of here yesterday like you'd been hit by a truck, and now your mother's calling emergency meetings and talking about financial discrepancies. Did something happen with your family? This is the moment where I could tell him everything. He's earned that much honesty. He changed my diapers at company picnics. He taught me how to calculate food costs when I was 14. He's been the closest thing to a grandfather figure since my actual grandfather died. But I also know that the more people who know, the less control anyone has over what happens next. It's complicated, I say finally. But nothing that affects your job or your paycheck. That's not reassuring, Marcus says flatly. That's what someone says when they know exactly how bad something is and they're trying not to panic everyone. He's right. He's absolutely right, and I hate that I can't tell him. I need to talk to my dad, I say. Can I call you back? Sure. But fair warning, Rachel's been calling around asking questions. She's smart, that one. She knows something's wrong, and she's going to keep digging until she figures out what it is. I thank him and hang up, then immediately call my father. He answers on the second ring, and the exhaustion in his voice is palpable. Where are you? He asks. Still at my apartment. Dad, what happened? Your mother had a panic attack. This morning. After she realized what she'd done by confessing to the accountant. She said she needed people to know because the secret was making her sick. She said keeping it locked inside was killing her, so she let it out, and now she's completely falling apart. Did she tell them it was her? I ask, already knowing the answer. No. But she will have to. Eventually. The accountant is going to do a full audit now. There's no way to hide it once someone official starts digging. Your mother knows that. I think she's starting to understand that confession and concealment are incompatible concepts. I can hear the bitterness in his voice, and I feel a flash of something, guilt, maybe, or solidarity. He's angry at her, but he's also trapped. He's a man trying to hold together a marriage while simultaneously accepting that his wife has committed a crime. What do you want me to do? I ask. I don't know, he says, and that might be the most honest thing I've heard from him. I don't know if you should come home. I don't know if you should stay away. I don't know if you should give those records to the police yourself or wait for the accountant to discover everything independently. I don't know what the right move is, and I'm supposed to know these things. I'm supposed to be the person with answers. You're also the person dealing with your wife admitting she stole almost $200,000, I point out gently. You don't have to have all the answers right now. Your mother is, he says quietly. Or she thinks she is. She's convinced that she has to confess to everything immediately, turn herself in, accept punishment. It's like she's swung from one extreme to another. Yesterday she was minimizing. Today she's catastrophizing. I'm not sure which version is more dangerous. That's when my phone buzzes with a new text. It's from our company's accountant. Asterisk got your dad's permission to reach out. Need to clarify some records from the last 4 years. Can you meet with me tomorrow? Your father mentioned you might have documents, asterisk. My stomach drops. Did you give him my name? I asked my father. I had to. He asked specifically if anyone else had access to the financial records. I told him you'd looked at them before you left. I wasn't going to lie about that. So now he's going to want everything from me. Yes, my father says. And you're going to have to decide whether to cooperate with that request. Whether to hand over the evidence you collected. Whether to become an official part of this investigation. I understand now why he sounded so exhausted. Every decision cascades into 5 more decisions. Every action has consequences that ricochet through the family like shrapnel. I'll meet with him, I say finally. Tomorrow. Okay, my father says. Thank you for that. For handling this with integrity, even though nobody's making it easy. After we hang up, I sit in the silence of my apartment and realize that regardless of what happens next, everything has changed. The secret is out. The machinery of accountability is turning. And I'm right in the center of it, holding evidence and power and responsibility I never asked for. #chunk6. I don't sleep that night. Instead, I organize the documents I copied, bank statements, transaction logs, flagged withdrawals, and create a timeline that's almost too damning to look at. The pattern becomes clearer with each line item, consistent withdrawals of $3,000 to $5,000, always to accounts I eventually traced back to an online casino. The frequency increased over the past 2 years. The amounts grew larger. By the end, she was taking nearly $8,000 a week. I've never thought of my mother as an addict before. She doesn't match any version of addiction I've seen in movies or read about in health class. She drinks wine at dinner parties. She takes her prescribed anxiety medication. She volunteers at the women's shelter once a month and remembered everyone's birthday until my father's memory got better with age and he took over the calendar. But addiction doesn't care about your volunteer work or your punctuality. It doesn't check credentials. By 7 a.m., I'm already dressed and pacing my apartment when my phone rings. It's my Aunt Rachel. Hey, she says without preamble. I need you to tell me what's going on. Rachel. Don't do that thing where you say my name like you're stalling. I've known you since you were born. I watched you learn to walk in the catering kitchen while your mom was prepping appetizers. I know all your tells. I sit down on my couch. What did you hear? I heard Marcus tell someone that your mother called an emergency meeting about financial issues. I heard the accountant is doing an audit. I heard your father looked like someone had punched him in the gut. I heard that you got fired yesterday in what everyone's calling very dramatic circumstances. And I heard, this is the part I'm not sure about, that it has something to do with money going missing. She waits. I can feel the weight of her expectation through the phone. Your mother has been taking money from the business, I say finally. There's no point lying to Rachel. She's too smart, and she cares too much. The silence on the other end stretches for so long I check to make sure the call didn't drop. How much? She asks quietly. Around $180,000. Over the past 4 years. I hear her sit down. Actually hear the sound of air leaving her lungs as she processes this. Jesus Christ, she whispers. Jennifer. Your mother took that much. How? I explain the mechanics of it, the accounts, the transfer methods, the escalating frequency. As I talk, I can almost hear the pieces clicking into place in Rachel's mind. She's thorough like that. She's also pragmatic in ways my mother has never managed to be. She's gambling, Rachel says. It's not a question. Yes. And no one knew. Your father didn't notice. I don't think he was looking, I say carefully. Mom handled most of the business finances. Dad was focused on operations and client relations. She had access and authority. She used both. And you found this how? This is the question I've been dreading. I was looking at the books to see if I could justify some system upgrades I wanted to propose. I found inconsistencies. I copied the records before Mom fired me. Another long silence. Before she fired you. Rachel's voice gets higher. So she knew you knew. I think she realized I was getting close. I asked her directly about some of the transfers. She didn't answer. She just told me to mind my own business and to stop questioning how she ran things. We fought. She called Dad at work and had me escorted out. Oh, Jen, Rachel says, and the sympathy in her voice almost breaks me. You were trying to help, and she made you the bad guy. I was questioning her authority, I say, echoing my mother's words. I was being disrespectful to the person who created the business, that's how she framed it, anyway. She created the business with your grandfather and your father, Rachel says sharply. Don't let her rewrite that history. And she certainly didn't create it with the intention of embezzling from it to fund a gambling addiction. I realize Rachel is angry. Not at me. At my mother. It's validating and uncomfortable in equal measure. There's more, I say. The accountant reached out. He wants to meet with me tomorrow morning. He wants the documents I have. Are you going to give them to him? I don't know. Legally, I think I have to. Morally, I don't know what I have to do anymore. It's my mother. But it's Grandpa's legacy. All those people who work there, they're counting on the business surviving. And it won't survive if this gets worse. You're handling this incredibly well for someone whose mother just fired them and committed felony theft, Rachel says. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm being honest. You're thinking about other people when you have every right to be falling apart. I feel like I am falling apart, I say. I just don't know if anyone can tell. Rachel's quiet for a moment. I need to tell you something, and I need you to know that I'm only telling you this because you've already figured most of it out and because I care about you more than I care about protecting her. Okay, I say, even though I'm not sure I want to hear this. Your mother tried to borrow money from me 2 months ago. She said she needed it for a medical procedure she didn't want to tell your father about. She was vague about it. She asked for $30,000. I said no, I don't have $30,000, and she got angry with me. We fought, and she accused me of being judgmental. I haven't talked to her since. The pieces slide into place with sickening precision. She was trying to cover a loss, I say. That would be my guess, yes. And when I wouldn't help her, she probably took more from the business. That's how addiction works, Jen. It's a spiral. It's never just one bad decision. It's one bad decision that leads to 10 more, and suddenly you're so deep you don't know how to get out. So what do? I ask. You meet with the accountant tomorrow. You give him the documents. You let the process work. And then you take care of yourself, because your family is about to implode, and you're going to be collateral damage whether you want to be or not. After we hang up, I realize that Rachel is right about everything except maybe the last part. I'm not collateral damage. I'm a witness. I'm evidence. I'm the person who had to choose between my mother and my conscience, and I chose my conscience. Tomorrow, I make that choice official. Hashtag Chunk 7. The accountant's office is sterile in a way that feels intentional, all glass and chrome and surfaces you can wipe clean. I sit in a chair that's probably expensive and deeply uncomfortable, a folder of documents in my lap that feels heavier than paper should weigh. His name is Gerald Chen, and he's been with the company for 7 years. I've seen him at the holiday parties, always quiet, always taking notes. My mother complained about him once, said he asked too many questions about her discretionary fund. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Thank you for coming in, he says, and there's something in his tone that tells me he already knows. Not the specifics, maybe, but the shape of it. People can sense these things. I slide the folder across his desk. My hands are shaking slightly, and I hope he doesn't notice. He doesn't look at me. He opens the folder with the careful precision of someone handling evidence. Which, I suppose, it is. His eyes move across the pages, statements, transfers, highlighted discrepancies. His expression doesn't change, but his jaw tightens. How long have you known? He asks finally. Since 2 days ago. Since I got fired. And your father? Knows something's wrong. Not the details. My aunt knows. Not your mother. She knows I found something. I think she found out I knew and fired me before I could. I don't finish the sentence. Before I could what? Report her. Save the company. Choose correctly. She fired me. Gerald sets the papers down and removes his glasses. Without them, he looks older. Tired. I've been auditing this company's finances for 7 years, he says. Do you know how many times I've flagged inconsistencies with your mother? I shake my head. 15 times. 15 times, I've asked for documentation about these transfers. 15 times, your mother provided explanations that didn't quite hold up. And 15 times, your father, because I always go to your father with these questions, accepted her explanation without pushing back. My stomach turns. My father didn't know, but he also didn't want to know. There's a distinction there, and it's an important one. I couldn't prove anything, Gerald continues. My job is to flag inconsistencies, not to prove criminal activity. But I've been documenting everything. I suspected gambling. I suspected embezzlement. What I didn't expect was for someone to walk in here with 4 years of receipts. He taps the folder. You did good work here. The timeline is clear. The evidence is solid. What happens now? I ask. Now, I finish the full audit. I present my findings to your father and the business partners. I recommend we bring in law enforcement. He pauses. And your mother will likely be charged with theft and embezzlement. The word sounds so final. So real. I knew this was coming. I chose this path when I copied those documents, but hearing it spoken aloud by someone official makes it visceral. My father, I say. He doesn't deserve this. No, Gerald agrees. He doesn't. But neither do the 12 people working in your kitchen right now who might lose their jobs if this business collapses. Neither did you, getting fired for discovering what should have been discovered years ago. My phone buzzes. Then again. I ignore it. But when it starts buzzing in rapid succession, I glance down. 6 text messages from my father. The last one says, call me immediately. I need to take this, I tell Gerald. He nods, already returning his attention to the documents. I step into the hallway and dial my father's number. He answers before it even rings. Where are you? He demands. Not angry, afraid. I'm in the city. At an appointment. Dad, what's wrong? Everything, he says, and I can hear the crack in his voice. Jen, your mother she's gone. The words don't make sense in sequence. Gone where? We don't know. She left this morning without saying anything. I found a note in the kitchen. It just says, I'm sorry. Your mother left a note and disappeared, and the accountant called me 30 minutes ago and told me that there's been a full-scale financial investigation into the company, and he wants to meet with me, and Jen, I don't understand what's happening. Dad, I say, and my voice sounds very small and very far away. I need to tell you something. The silence that follows is the sound of my father's world reordering itself. I tell him. Not all at once, in pieces, in explanations, in apologies that shouldn't be mine to give. I tell him about the discrepancies, about the gambling accounts, about the escalating withdrawals. I tell him about finding the documents before I was fired. I tell him that I gave everything to Gerald Chen because I couldn't keep it secret anymore. When I finish, my father isn't angry. He's devastated in a way that's somehow worse than anger would be. She stole from us, he says, like he's testing the words. Like he can't quite make them stick in his mind. I'm sorry, I say, and I mean it in ways I don't have words for. I'm sorry my mother did this. I'm sorry my father has to face it. I'm sorry I had to be the one to expose it. I'm sorry for being right. You did the right thing, my father says, and he sounds broken saying it. I know that. I know intellectually that you did the right thing. But my God, Jennifer, do you understand what this means? I think so, I whisper. No, he says. You don't. Your mother is sick. She needs help. But before she can get help, we have to acknowledge what she did. The business has to acknowledge it. The police have to acknowledge it. And our family. He stops. I can hear him breathing, trying to compose himself. Our family has to figure out who we are if she's not the person we thought she was. Where is she? I ask. I don't know. I've called her phone 100 times. It goes straight to voicemail. I've driven past her favorite places. I've called hospitals. The police are looking for her, but she's an adult, and she left a note, so they're not treating it as an emergency yet. After we hang up, I sit in the hallway of an accounting firm in the city and realize that I didn't just expose my mother's crimes. I've shattered something that can't be reassembled. My mother is missing. My father is in shock. And somewhere out there, my mother is running from the consequences of her own choices, which means she's also running from any chance of actually getting help. I've won, which means everyone has lost. #Chunk 8. 6 weeks later, I'm sitting in a coffee shop that smells like burnt espresso and broken dreams when my phone rings. It's Detective Morrison, the officer who's been handling my mother's case. I almost don't answer. I've gotten good at not answering things lately. Ms. Jenkins, we found her, Morrison says without preamble. She's in Connecticut. A residential treatment facility. She checked herself in under a different name, but the facility recognized her from the missing persons report and contacted us. I set down my coffee cup with shaking hands. Is she okay? She's alive. She's admitted to the embezzlement. She's willing to cooperate with the investigation in exchange for consideration regarding sentencing. Your father is being notified as we speak. After we hang up, I sit with that information like it's a living thing. She's alive. She ran and hid and checked herself into treatment under a false name, which tells me something important. She knows what she did was wrong. Not just legally wrong, wrong in the way that breaks something inside you. The business didn't collapse. That's the thing nobody expected, not really. When everything came out, when the full audit was complete and the police investigation started and the news got leaked to the industry, I thought for sure the catering company would implode under the weight of the scandal. A family business, built by my grandfather over 40 years, brought down by my mother's gambling addiction and theft. It had all the elements of a perfect catastrophe. But Dad didn't let it die. Instead, he did something unexpected. He brought in 2 new business partners, legitimate investors who understood the value of the company's reputation and client base. He promoted Marcus, who'd been with us for 15 years, to operations manager. He restructured the business entirely, making the accounting transparent and quarterly reports available to all partners. He took responsibility for not catching what he should have caught earlier, and he did it publicly. The clients came back. Not all of them, some couldn't look past the scandal, but enough. More than enough. The employees kept their jobs. The kitchen kept running. And somehow, in the aftermath of devastation, my grandfather's legacy didn't just survive. It transformed. Dad also did something else. He started attending family therapy. He found a therapist who specializes in supporting family members of people with addiction and compulsive disorders. He's been reading books about enabling behavior and taking responsibility for his own role in creating an environment where my mother's theft could continue unchecked. It hasn't healed anything yet, but there's a quality of intentionality to it that gives me hope. Last week, he asked me something I didn't expect. Would you consider coming back to the company? He asked. We were sitting in his office, a different office now, in a different building, part of the restructuring. Not as the person I fired you as. As the person who was right. As the person who was brave enough to do the hard thing. I told him I needed to think about it. The truth is, I did come back. I started 2 weeks ago in a new role, business development and process improvement. Exactly what I've been trying to do the day my mother fired me for suggesting we update our booking software. The irony isn't lost on me, but it doesn't feel bitter anymore. It feels like evidence that sometimes, being right doesn't look like vindication. It looks like slowly, methodically, doing the work to rebuild what was broken. Rachel was right about one thing, the collateral damage was real. But she was wrong about me. I wasn't collateral damage. I was a catalyst. I was the person who had to choose, and I chose correctly, and yes, it destroyed things. But destruction sometimes precedes reconstruction. My mother's case will go to trial in 3 months. Her lawyer has advised her to take a plea deal, 10 years with possibility of parole after 5 if she completes treatment and makes restitution. The amount she stole was $847,000 across 4 years. The restitution payments will bankrupt her, which is fair. She stole from people she loved. Consequences need to match that betrayal. I haven't visited her in treatment. I'm not ready for that. But I've written her a letter that I haven't sent yet, sitting in my desk drawer. It explains what I did and why. It doesn't forgive her, but it also doesn't condemn her entirely. It acknowledges that she's sick, that she needed help, and that she should have gotten it before she stole from my father and our family and the people who trusted her. I'm not sure I'll ever send it. What I am sure of is this: I was 22 years old when I walked into an accounting firm with a folder of documents and changed everything. I was young enough to still believe that doing the right thing would feel triumphant. It didn't. It felt terrible and necessary and like something breaking inside my chest that I'm still learning how to live with. But the business survived. The employees kept their jobs. My father is doing the work to understand himself better. And my mother, somewhere in Connecticut, is finally getting the help she's needed for years. So when people ask me if I regret reporting my mother, I tell them the truth. I regret that she did what she did. I regret that I had to be the one to expose it. I regret that my family is fractured in ways that might never fully heal. But do I regret doing the right thing? No. Never. Some choices destroy things because the things needed to be destroyed. Some betrayals are necessary to prevent larger, more comprehensive ones. Some families have to fall apart to have any chance of rebuilding themselves correctly. I used to think being right meant being vindicated. Now I understand that being right is just the first, smallest, most painful step toward anything actually changing. And that's enough. It has to be enough. It's finally starting to feel like it might be.